Hey everybody, welcome back to the Throwing Partners podcast. It's Kirby and Joseph here, coming to you on this Sunday night. It is Father's Day, so shout out to all the dads out there or dads to be, and all the moms that played the role of dad. So happy Father's Day. It was a great day. I went and spent the weekend with my mom and dad and celebrated my dad. And glad to see that he is doing well. Joe, it's been quite the week in Braves country, and I know it has in Astros world as well. So if you could give us our usual Astros update, let's get this thing rolling. I'm ready.
Drive into left. At the wall. It's gone. Tie game.
All right, well, the Astros went 3-3 this week. They played a 3-game series against the Giants in San Francisco, and then they finished off the week with a 3-game series against the Tigers here in Houston. Starting off on Monday, you know, the Astros' struggles have continued, and they basically played back-to-back heartbreaking games. As some would say, the worst losses of the season back-to-back. With that game on Monday, the Astros would lose 4-3 in extra innings against the Giants. They, I mean, they, I don't even know how to describe it. It's so frustrating to talk about still because they had the game. It was, it was within reach, and then it just fell apart. Um, they had scored 2 runs in extra innings for the first time, um, all season. And it seemed like they, had finally put something to like put a good inning together in extra innings for the first time since this whole Manfred Ghost Runner was added. But then, you know, Montero comes in and, he only gets one out. He gives up 4 hits, and that's the game. A lot of people were complaining that it was bad bullpen management to have Montero in that situation to begin with, dating back to the weekend series against the Angels, which was a real point of contention considering that Espada had, I believe, Presley and Abreu pitch that Saturday game when they were up 6-0. And they had pitched, or at least, sorry, Presley had pitched 3 days in a row, and he wasn't available for the Monday game. So, I mean, it's tough. The bullpen management wasn't great. But like starting pitching was great. Spencer Arangeti pitched 5 2/3 innings. He gave up 4 hits, 1 run. He had 3 walks and 6 strikeouts. And we did see signs of improvement from him. Unfortunately, though, his start this weekend was not great. But the Astros lose a heartbreaker in the first game on Monday, and then they go and Ronel Blanco shines once again. And they get the win. Ronel Blanco has been the Astros stopper, and if anybody doesn't know what that means, it means when the team is on a losing streak, you can always rely on him to come in and shut it down. Get that team a much needed win. And that's exactly what he's been for the Astros so far this season. Basically, every time his name has been called in the rotation, he has stepped up to the moment. And he's dazzled. And I will. He deserves to be an all-star this year, that's for sure. He just needs to make a couple more good starts, and I think that he should be a lock for the all-star. Um, you know, he's been pitching out of his mind, and he almost threw another no-hitter today if it wasn't for his high pitch count. But we would win the game on Tuesday, 3-1. And like I said, Blanco struck out 8 and over 6 innings, and Dubon scored twice. Playing his second game back in San Francisco since he was traded here to Houston. So, that was a little sweet revenge for him. And moving on to the Wednesday game, that was a day game. The Astros just, they need to beat bad teams. And they are a bad team, like I've been saying so far this season. And the Giants are a bad team, and they lost the series. They just couldn't find a way to win it. the Giants got on, I believe it was Fromber, early in the game, and he was giving up hard contact everywhere. They homered, I believe, twice off of him, and he was just not able to, be effective, like he usually is. He was giving up a lot of fly balls, and was not getting very many ground outs. So, once again, the bullpen was pretty taxed, and just Joe Espada has been put in a tough situation because people have been complaining about, the way that he's been using the bullpen and the usage. And it's really, in my opinion, it comes down to poor roster construction. Um, you've got guys like Sean Dubin and uh, Nick Martinez in the bullpen, and those are unproven guys that have not looked good all season long. And you know, they're expected to be put in high pressure situations. A lot of people were complaining that they weren't used um, in the game on Monday. And sorry, I messed up. It was Montero who had pitched 3 days in a row on Monday. That's why people were complaining that he was in the game. They said that he was overused starting from the weekend. But they wanted guys like Sean Dubin and Nick Martinez in the game, who are two AAA guys that should not be on the roster. I don't know why they're on the roster. You're putting any manager in a tough position when you're constructing a roster like this, and it goes to show, the problems that have been created over the last 2 years from choices after we won the World Series. And I will get into more of that. I'm going to keep complaining about it just because I feel like it. I don't care if it gets tired. I honestly believe that this is where the Astros struggle stem from, and I don't believe that anything is going to be fixed until we actually allow the people who are put in place to do their jobs. Um, so they dropped the series against the Giants. Again, they really needed that series win. They really needed a sweep. Obviously that didn't go according to plan on Monday. They dropped the first game. They needed a series win. We're not able to get the series win. So moving on to the Tigers, again, they needed a sweep. And you know what? They came out, and Hunter Brown, I mentioned this last week, he has been dominant over the last 6 or 7 starts. And you could basically throw out, the first 6 starts that he had in the season because he is not the same pitcher anymore. He added that sinker / two seam, and he has been so much more effective against right-handed batters, which is who he struggled against early on in the season. He pitched 7 scoreless innings, and the Astros beat the Tigers 4-0. And like I said, Hunter Brown, he struck out 9, so he's starting to get that swing and miss that we saw when he first came up in 2022 as a September call-up. And like I said, he struggled the first 6 starts, but he honestly, I think we can probably confidently say that he might struggle here and there from time to time, obviously, like all players do, but this might be the real Hunter Brown. Um, and I think that he has stepped up big when the Astros have needed him the most. Losing or not having guys like Luis Garcia, um, Jose Urquidy, Christian Javier. Um, you know, I believe, if what I remember is correct, or if what the reports were correct, Justin Verlander had notified the team that he was not going to make his start on Friday. So stepping up there, making sure that the Astros secure that first win of the series, especially because of what happened on Saturday. Just stepping up when his name is called since making the adjustment. And I think he's been super valuable to the team. After that horrible Kansas City start. So, like I mentioned, it was really big that he performed very well on Friday, because Saturday the Astros just they did not play well. I had other words for that, but I'm not going to use that language on this podcast. They lost 13-5. Spencer Arrighetti made an emergency start for Justin Verlander, as I mentioned, who notified the team of neck discomfort on Friday. Arrighetti was on regular rest. His routine was thrown off by a day, though. So make of that what you will. I believe that he was put in a tough situation. Um, but you have to, go out there and step up. I mean, like I said, Hunter Brown has stepped up. The team knew on Friday that Verlander wasn't going to make that start. Hunter Brown was able to step up and make sure that we secured that win. But Arrighetti, put in a tough situation, was not able to. He pitched poorly, very, very poorly. I mean, his stat line was awful. He only pitched an inning and a third. He gave up 5 hits and 7 runs. He had 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, and he gave up 3 home runs. And then Sean Dubin came in to relief for him, the name that everybody was screaming for in extra innings on Monday. And he gave up 6 hits, three runs. He had 2 walks, no strikeouts, and that's kind of why everybody was saying that they wanted him in on Monday, was because he gets a lot of strikeouts. It looks like he gives up a lot of hits and runs, in my opinion. So take of that what you will. But Nick Hernandez then came in for 3 2/3 innings. He gave up 3 hits, 1 run, and he had 5 strikeouts, but he did give up a home run. So, like I said, this was garbage time at this point. The Astros were not mounting a comeback, and you've got Sean Dubin and Nick Hernandez going out there and eating innings for you, giving up runs. I mean, and you want to trust these guys in high pressure situations? I don't think so. I don't think that that's a good roster construction. I'm going to keep repeating that. I'm not even going to blame Dana Brown at this point, because I think that his hands are tied as well. But I mean, just the lack of accountability from ownership, who at this point have had 2 bad off seasons in a row, which I truly believe is why they are in the position they are now. And I didn't even freaking mention that Jose Abreu was cut before this Tiger series. Didn't even mention that. But I'll get to that in a
can't
second.
believe it happened. I'm baffled that it even happened.
I'm baffled too, but I'm glad that they finally owned up to it. At least that's a little bit of accountability that they've finally been able to show me. But let's just finish off this Detroit series real quick. The Astros won today, winning the series 4-1. Ronel Blanco, I mean, like I said a little while ago, he's going to be an all-star. Just he needs to make 1 or 2 more really competitive starts, and I think that he's got that all-star locked up. He threw 7 scoreless innings. He also threw 7 no-hit innings. He had one inning where it got a little hairy, and he gave up 3 walks, but he was able to escape that. And he's been great. He's been fantastic. He's another guy who has also stepped up big. Coming into the season, we knew that we weren't going to have, Luis Garcia, Lance McCullers, Jose Urquidy was hurt at the time. JP France had just, started throwing again from an injury. That's why he made the start that he did against the Blue Jays when he threw his no-hitter. He's been huge. And, I'm going to go back to the sticky substance thing. I think that it is so laughable that he's got that on his record now, because I'm going to say it again. I think that that's a stupid rule. It's a legal substance provided by MLB. He could want to put it wherever, he wants. It should still be okay, because it's there in broad daylight for everyone to see on the mound. I don't understand that. He did not deserve that. He has pitched phenomenally. His story is great. He deserves to be an all-star. If like I said, 2 more good starts, he will be an all-star, and he deserves it, because his journey to the big leagues is one that you dream of as a kid coming out of a Latin American country where you maybe weren't recruited at a younger age like some of these players were, but you were able to stick with it and get recruited at an older age, grind through the minor league process, and then finally find that one thing that sets you above, out and above, some of these other guys. And, he has just been incredible for this team so far. Honestly, if I had to pick an MVP for the season so far, I'm going to say it's Ronel Blanco, because he's been the most consistent part of the Astros team so far this season. He's gone out there and he's dominated time and time again. Finding that changeup might be, the stair step for his career, honestly. And I'm excited to see him continue to pitch, and I hope that he can continue this fairy tale run that he's had so far. So that's a little bit about what the Astros did this week game wise, but there was a lot of other things that happened this week, and we've got some news about what Dana Brown has said over the last couple of days as it pertains to the trade deadline. Jose Abreu was cut, and I'm just going to give you his final stat line for his year as an Astro this year. He accumulated a whopping negative 1.6 WAR and 113 at bats. He had 14 hits, 2 home runs. He hit 124. I can't even believe my eyes when I'm reading that out loud. He scored 10 runs. He had 7 RBIs. He had an OBP of 167. Oh my God. He had a slugging of 195, an OPS of 361, and an OPS plus of 4.
Okay, so to put into perspective, he basically got on base 1 out of every 6 chances. So basically once every other game, and that's either with a walk or a hit, but more than likely maybe like a walk or a hit by pitch. And then his batting average being even lower than that, that's like 1 for 7 every 2 games. So basically in every series, he was averaging like 1, maybe 2 hits out of like 14 at bats. That's horrible.
Yeah.
That's pathetic for somebody making 19 and a half.
I just want to explain this OPS plus number. The league average is 100. So if you're batting, let's say, if you have an OPS plus of 124, that means you're 24% better than, the league average. His OPS plus was 4.
It's not even 40, not 44, 4. Like this many.
4.
Yeah. Oh, he was
4. He was horrible. His time as an Astro is over. It's easy to dog on him just because he played so poorly, but hearing all of the great things that so many people in the White Sox organization have said about him, and even people in the Astros clubhouse have said about him, it's honestly disappointing to see the way that this contract played out. Everybody at the time loved the signing, and I get it. Revisionist history is, you go back in time and you take a little bit of a harder look at the numbers, and you see that decline is greater than, what you're investing in. But I didn't want him to play bad, obviously, because I don't think anybody wanted him to play bad. No one wanted him to fail. But it got to the point where he was failing so often, hurting this team so bad that you just couldn't have him in the lineup anymore. It was unavoidable. Every big moment was he was coming up to the plate, or it was a ball hit to him that he couldn't field. And like I said, no one wanted him to fail. Everybody wanted him to be successful, because that would obviously mean that the team is being helped in a time when the team desperately needed it. So it's really disappointing that this contract played out the way that it did. The Astros are going to eat the $30 million that are left on his contract. And honestly, I mean, like I said, I wish that it didn't play out this way. I wish him the best. I do. But I'm really thankful that the Astros finally made the move to let him go and just eat the contract. And it is really just disappointing at the end of the day. But I'm hoping, the Astros can now, address the elephant in the room and address, the big need at first base. I think John Singleton is okay for the time being, but I think you got to think bigger picture. And you got to find someone better than John Singleton. And hopefully this might create some more consistency. The Astros so far in June, it's been the tale of the season. It's, Altuve is batting 314, Pena is batting 204, Alvarez 354, Bregman 340, Jake Myers 152, Mauricio Dubon 256, Yainer Diaz 355, John Singleton 211. It's no one can get hot at the same time. It's everybody is just they're either hot or they're not, and it just fluctuates. And there is no, you know, they cannot put it together all at once. And I keep saying it, but it is a fact. It's like they have all had such good individual seasons for the most part, but not at the same time. No one is doing it at the same time. There was maybe a week where I believe they had was it a 6 game or 7 game win streak? And that was about it. That was the only time that it looked like the Astros had put it all together. But other than that, I mean, it's been a month since they've won 3 games in a row. That's how inconsistent they've been. That's horrible. And Joe Espada has made some mistakes. I'm not gonna go out here and think that he's infallible. He's made some mistakes. He did not manage the bullpen very well in the Angels series, and I will acknowledge that. But I do not think the larger problems have been because Dusty Baker or Martin Maldonado are no longer on this team or managing this team. I think that it has to do with poor roster management from the GM by committee staff. And I think that, I'm going to keep saying it. James Click was, a very big part of why this organization was successful in 2022. He got Mauricio Dubon for not Parker Mursinski, the Astros catcher. I don't even remember his name. He's so irrelevant. I don't he was released by the Giants in 2 months. That he got a very key role player on this team, someone that can play almost every position for some guy that the Giants would literally DFA 2 months later. He got Yainer Diaz and Phil Maton for Miles Straw, who everybody cried about at the time in the trade deadline in 2021. You got Kendall Graveman and Rafael Montero for Abraham Toro. These are all moves that played a very big role in that 2022 World Series. And then you just told them to go F off at the end of the season because you thought that you could do it better. And there's also, there's one trade in particular, the Willer Abreu trade for Christian Vasquez, who I'm going to admit, some people have said that we could have won the World Series without Christian Vasquez. He did call that no-hitter. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if the Astros won that World Series without that no-hitter. That Phillies offense was torrid at the time. But, the Astros had an opportunity to go get Wilson Contreras straight up for Jose Urquidy, who is now out with Tommy John for the rest of the season and probably into 2025. And they gave up Willer Abreu and Emmanuel Valdez, 2 very high prospects and 2 prospects that have, I believe that Valdez hasn't played very well in his time in the majors, but Willer Abreu has been killing baseballs for the Red Sox so far this year. That's someone in the Astros organization that they really could have used. But Dusty Baker vetoed that trade. James Click knew what he was doing. He knew what the stats said for Jose Urquidy. Jose Urquidy is not a good pitcher in my opinion. And I think that his hands were handcuffed by Jim Crane and Dusty Baker. They need to just let these GMs who they are putting in place do their jobs. 2 guys that I think that Dana Brown actually played a role in getting. Victor Caratini and Taylor Scott. I can very clearly tell you that those are guys that Dana Brown probably scouted and liked.
Moves, which is what he learned in Atlanta.
Yeah, Josh Hader does not scream a Dana Brown type move.
That is a 100% right move.
That exactly, and that's the problem. Is I can see where Dana Brown has had, played a role in, and it is very there's such a stark contrast in the way that Dana Brown operates signing Josh Hader, or Dana Brown operates going and getting out Victor Caratini and a Taylor Scott. Those are very 2 ends of the spectrum. Take a flyer out on 2 different guys, and then one, the very pricey, flashy move that I don't believe Dana Brown was very happy about or would have agreed to. I started all this off by talking about the comments that he made. regarding the trade deadline. And I think that he doesn't really have a say in it. He's going to say whatever Jim Crane tells him to say because he likes his job. I would too if I were him. Jim Crane was the one that came out and said after the Josh Hader signing that, the window is going to be open as long as I'm the owner. But he's really done some work to hamper that. And the position that they're in right now, they're, I believe, 6 games back. No, they're 6 games under 500. They're 7 games out of the division. Um, they've got to play some good baseball to get back in it if they genuinely want to be buyers at the deadline. Because if they continue to keep playing the way that they have been, just winning series, not sweeping, and occasionally losing, a series to a bad team, there's no reason why they should be buying at the deadline. They need to be selling. They need to be getting assets in the minor leagues. And they need to be building the farm system back up. They need to be getting prospects that they could potentially develop because the Astros have a very good player development system in place right now. Everybody loves to hate on their minor league system, but they are constantly producing big league players that can go out and produce at some point. Like Chas McCormick and Jake Myers, for example. No one had them on the radar. Renel Blanco, no one had them on the radar. Before 2020, Christian Javier and Luis Garcia, no one had them on the radar. They're now big league staples. I mean, all of these guys, the Astros player development has produced, but you can't really do that right now when you have a subpar minor league system, and you got to go build those assets back up. And that's why I think buying at the deadline would be a mistake. And like I said, he's going to say whatever, Jim Crane wants to hear. I get that, but I would really like to see him, go make the moves that he believes will benefit this team. And I'm going to end it there because we're almost 30 minutes in now, and you got to talk about the Braves.
All right, Joe. Well, I mean, overall, that was a great Astros update. Some of the moves that Jim Crane decides that he wants to do are just frustrating. Because Dana Brown could have easily gone out and gotten 2 or 3 really solid relievers for the price of one Josh Hader, who would have filled out that bullpen completely. They wouldn't have had the obvious holes there, and that bullpen would have actually been complete and had plenty of depth. Because that's one thing that Dana Brown learned from Alex Anthopoulos is we don't run out of depth. We're not going to be caught with our pants down. We are going to have plenty of depth, quality depth.
The Astros have been caught with their pants down
several times. So anyway, let me get into the Astros, so the Braves update here. It was also a 3-3 week, but let me tell you, after Wednesday, this was a very doom and gloom type of week, because they lost Tuesday and Wednesday to the Orioles, and it looked really bad. Tuesday, Max Fried pitched. He threw 5 innings. He gave up 4 earned runs, had 2 walks and 3 Ks. He made 1 bad pitch really to Jorge Mateo, and he put it into the seats for a 3-run bomb. For some reason, Brian Snitker thought it would be a fantastic job to put Marcell Ozuna in the 5-hole that night. Don't understand that one at all because he's arguably the MVP, which I will get into later. And this was actually the second time in like less than a week that they had actually been shut out. And before their first shutout of this year, they had gone over a year without being shut out. So it was very alarming to see them get shut out. The offense, just did absolutely nothing. And then Wednesday, they also lost again to the Orioles 4-2. Spencer Swellenbach, though, let me tell you, through 6 innings, he only gave up 4 hits to a very good Orioles team. Gave up 2 earned runs. He had 2 walks, and he had 3 Ks. The command is there for Swelly. I really like watching this guy pitch. He's got some plus pitches, and the command is just awesome to watch. This guy he's going to stick in the rotation. The Braves offense, once again, did not look good. But in the top of the 8th, Matt Olson came up and hit a game-tying 2-run homer. So I'm like, okay, well, at least we're not going to get skunked, So that made it 2-2. Well, then at the bottom of the 8th, they blew that freaking lead to Colton Cowser on a 2-run homer off Joe Jimenez. And that was the ballgame. They lost 4-2. So right there, that actually dropped them to 35-30 on the year, which is kind of alarming. And the offense, like I said, it was looking bad. Anyway, so Thursday they played a day game. And they actually ended up winning this game 6-3. Um, Reynaldo Lopez, kind of like Ronel Blanco, he's been the stopper this year. He threw 6 innings, no runs, 1 walk, 8 Ks, and actually lowered his ERA to 169. Reynaldo Lopez is an all-star, and he should be in the top 3 in the Cy Young conversation, probably outside of Ranger Suarez. He looked fantastic. He's cool, calm, and collected on the mound. He doesn't get excited. He can sit 93 to 95 and amp it up to 98 when he needs to. The dude is just absolutely just pitching, man. It's great to see. Michael Harris actually had probably a game-saving catch in center field in the 9th inning, which gave them 2 outs. Fantastic catch. I was like, man, this is like a total leg jam here. And then another good sign from that day, Ozzy Albies had 4 hits, and as a team, the Braves hit 5 doubles, so 5 extra base hits. I'll take that all day. So like I said, they won that game 6-3. That ended their 5-game losing streak, which had been their longest losing streak since 2017. That was before they won their first of 6 division titles. So good to get back on track there. Then they come home and they play the Rays. The Rays have not been a good team this year, which is kind of surprising for them. Friday night they played. Chris Sale came out balling. Through 7 innings, he gave up 2 runs, had 2 walks, and he had 7 Ks. And he really didn't even have his best stuff, but that helped bring his ERA back down under 3 to 298. The offense actually had 7 runs in the first 2 innings, which I just felt like 2023 to me, where they put up a crooked number in the first inning and then the game's over. Ozuna and Riley both had a homer, and Riley was actually a triple short of the cycle. The only bad part about this game is Michael Harris led off the game with a single. Ozzy Albies hit a double right after that. And Harris came up kind of limp going to third. And turns out he's got a hamstring strain. So no telling how long this guy's going to be out. It could be a month, could be 6 weeks. I'm not expecting to have him back until after the All-Star game. Right. But they did win that game 7-3. Offense looked great. I was very pleased to see that. Saturday, they won again, 9-2. Charlie Morton looked kind of rough in the first inning, but he ended up going 6 innings. He had only gave up the 1 run in the first. Had 2 walks and 8 Ks. Quality start. Great job, Charlie Morton, 4-year-old. The offense had 4 homers. And finally, something that we saw in this game is I had been screaming this for like 2 weeks that Jared Kelenic needs to hit leadoff. He made a stance adjustment May 21st in Chicago. Okay? I have the numbers pulled up right here. Since that stance adjustment, this is through yesterday on Fangraphs, Jared Kelenic has a 152 WRC plus. He's hitting 308 with a 352 OBP and a 554 slug, and his K percentage is down like 9 points, and he's actually taking his walks. And if it wasn't for some umpires absolutely hoeing him on probably 3 or 4 different 3-2 called strikes, he'd probably have 3 or 4 more walks. So he gets to hit leadoff finally. And then he hits a homer, which is awesome. And then, like I said, the Braves had 4 homers that day between their leadoff hitter, their 3-hole, 4-hole, and 5-hole, which was Kelenic, Ozuna, Olsen, and Riley. The guys that they need to get going, they were all going. Kelenic had 3 hits, Ozuna had 3, Olsen had 2, and Riley was actually on base 3 times with 2 walks and the homer. So really good to see from the middle of their order, because Riley had really been struggling, man. He'd been going through it. So that was Saturday's game. They won that game 9-2. And then today they lost 8-6. However, the offense looked good again. Hurston Waldrop pitched. He's just not ready for the big leagues. He's given up too many walks. But he's got good stuff. He's going to be a good major leaguer, but it's not his time yet. He got sent back to AAA. They're going to bring up another reliever to cover him. But he's not ready yet. Kelenic and Riley homered again, which was great to see. Riley, that's 3 straight games for him with a homer. The Braves need that guy going if they're going to win ball games. Matt Olson had 3 hits, and Travis d'Arnaud had 2 of them. This was actually their 4th straight game with 6 or more runs. So to say that the Braves' offense is back, I'm going to go ahead and say that their offense is back. Kelly is having some fantastic at-bats from the leadoff spot. He's taking a lot of pitches. He's got a lot of power up there. For some reason, I guess it's a stance adjustment. He looks a lot more comfortable up there. And like I said, if it wasn't for some umpires hoeing him 3-2 or whatnot, he would probably have a lot more walks as well. So that was the weekly update from the Braves. I think it's pretty positive looking forward because now they're going to play the Tigers, who are not a good team. I mean, if the Astros can take 2 out of 3, hopefully the Braves can at least take 2 out of 3.
Wow.
Yeah, but let me say this though: a big part of their offense and their struggles goes to Orlando Arcia and Adam Duvall. Orlando Arcia has a negative F-WAR since April 19th. For those of you who don't know, that actually factors in offense and defense. So for those of you who say, well, his defense is making up for it, no, it's not. He is a negative WAR player since April 19th. That is like an 8-week stretch now. However, my guy, Nacho Alvarez, has a 394 OBP between AA and AAA. He doesn't have a ton of power, but he gets on base a lot. He takes his walks. He hustles, and he's got decent speed. And so far, he actually looks like he's playing shortstop pretty well. So I'm not saying that Orlando Arcia's job is on the line, but Nacho Alvarez is knocking on the door telling him that he needs to get it in gear. Because Nacho looks like he wants to play pro ball. He doesn't have a lot of power, but man, that OBP at 394 through those 2 leagues just screams a guy that's going to hit 9-hole for the Braves and then be on base, 2 or 3 times a game and really being, helping those guys at the top driving runs. Adam Duvall is unplayable against right-handed pitching, but Brian Sticker keeps running him out there. He must have blackmail on Sticker. That's all I can figure because Duvall is literally worse than we would be, Joe. I'm not even kidding. He is absolutely atrocious against right-handed pitching. It's awful. I would give a dumpster a shot in right field before I would get Adam Duvall another chance. He is horrible against right-handed pitching. I don't know if he needs a day off or an IL stint, but man, it's rough to see him out there. And then I said I was actually going to talk about Marcell Ozuna. Yes, I am. For those of you who don't know, Marcell Ozuna is having a career year. He is leading the National League. Now, this is through some of yesterday. With an OPS, home runs, RBIs, total bases, OPS plus, runs created, and a whole bunch of nerd stats on Baseball Reference. That's really good. Shohei Ohtani is not leading in those categories. Ozuna is also 2nd in batting average. He's 6th in hits. He's 4th in OBP, and he's 2nd in extra base hits. I know that people want to say Ketel Marte is the MVP because of the WAR numbers, or maybe you look at Shohei because of his WAR numbers. I don't care, because if we're talking about most valuable, without Marcell Ozuna, the Braves are an under 500 team, and their season is very doom and gloom. Marcell Ozuna is 100%, in my opinion, the NL MVP right now. I don't like the whole idea of the WAR stats to begin with, because DH is obviously getting knocked because of their lack of defense, which I don't get. If you don't play, how do you get knocked on that? But anyway, I still believe that. I think right now Ozuna is the MVP over Marte. Other than that, one person I did not mention on that MVP list, and because of what happened today, is Mookie Betts. Probably my favorite player outside of the Braves and Astros organization. Mookie Betts actually fractured his hand today. Got hit with a 98 mile an hour pitch. I don't know how long he's going to be out. I would imagine 4 to 6 weeks. But I absolutely hate that for Mookie because I love watching that dude play. So that just sucks for Mookie. And then also, too, More Dodger news. Yamamoto is actually going to be out due to a strained rotator cuff on the 15-day IL. So no telling how many starts he's going to miss. But in my opinion, Yamamoto and Mookie being out is the same as Ronnie and Strider being out. That is their comp. So the Dodgers' depth is once again going to be tested, and we'll see how they do. Once again, their division sucks, so they'll probably hold that division lead just fine. But just it's tough seeing both of those guys out. I want to see the Stars healthy, that's for sure. Joe, what else we got today?
Well, you covered the Dodgers injury news. The Yankees were the first team to 50 wins this week. And gosh darn it, if there was ever a year where I want to pluck my eyeballs out during the World Series, I think this one might be the year because it's really shaping up to be to be a Yankees Dodgers World Series so far. I know that you still got to go through the crazy test of the postseason, but I mean the Yankees lead all of baseball in runs scored and runs allowed. And they do everything right now. I mean, I still don't understand how people were down on them going into the season. I know that I've brought up getting back a healthy Anthony Rizzo and a healthy Aaron Judge. Anthony Rizzo has been garbage. I think for a little while now so far this year. If I'm not mistaken, I heard some reports that the Yankees were trying to figure out what they're going to do with him, but Jesus, man, I mean they're just they're they're solid in almost every facet of the game. And that's without Garrett Cole, who has made a couple of rehab starts now. So, you know, who knows how much better they are going to get once he returns. It's just, I mean, you got to give the props to them as just, someone who likes to see competitive baseball. I mean, they went out, they knew what they needed to do this offseason, and they made the moves that they needed to, regardless of what the cost was. Um, and that's, something I like to see from teams. I like teams that are aggressive. I hate it as an Astros fan, because, the Yankees have, been in our way for a couple of runs to the World Series, obviously not stopping us, but, they've been in the way kind of. 2022, it was more of like a, just a small little fly that we just swatted away. But, in 2017, they gave us a run for our money. 2019 was pretty, exciting. But, I mean, they're playing out of their mind. The Dodgers are also, going crazy right now. I mean, with their stacked top half of the lineup, I don't know how they're gonna, bounce back, or I don't know how they're gonna compete without Mookie, who was, been on pace for an MVP too this season, up there with Otani and Ozuna. But and especially losing Yamamoto, who has been better as of late. It's going to be very interesting to see how the rest of their season plays out because, Lord only knows how long both Mookie and Yamamoto are going to be out with some pretty serious injuries. Um, I mean, the Phillies are also on a tear. Um, I mean, I don't even know what to say anymore. They pitch really well. They did just lose a big series against Baltimore. Um, But I mean, Baltimore has also been killing it. I mean, you called it earlier this season. Gunnar Henderson has been playing out of his mind. He's also up there for an AL MVP. The Guardians have been playing good. The AL Central is just an interesting case study. How I mean, I don't know if they're gonna continue to be all play this well, but the Guardians, Kansas City, and the Twins are all playing some pretty good baseball. Now, I don't know if they can sustain it. Like, I don't know how sustainable it is for all three of them to be this good, but they've so far all played really good. And honestly, I think that the Royals are probably, I would say, out of the three teams, I think the Royals and the Guardians are the most real. I think the Twins could potentially be frauds, but we have to wait for the season to play out. I think that the Twins lack real depth, pitching wise, and I don't know if their lineup can really, keep it going. But we'll see. Maybe they make some moves at the deadlines to sure up, some of their weaknesses. But yeah,
Can
I
we
mean, I
can we
don't
talk
know.
about
That's
a team that is not lacking pitching depth and especially starting pitching?
All right, we're gonna
Um,
talk about the Mariners because they've been playing really well as of late, and they've been pulling away from they've been
so
separating themselves from the AL West.
So as of yesterday, they played in 73 games, and their starters had thrown 45 quality starts. That is six better than the next team, which is the Phillies. That's unreal.
Yeah,
For those of you who don't
that
know,
is unreal.
that is
Yeah.
phenomenal. Uh, yeah, they're if they go out and get a bat or two at the trade
Mm-hmm.
deadline, which
Yeah.
they absolutely should, and they said they will. That Mariners team is going to be really good going into the postseason.
Yeah. So,
Take a second.
so I was talking to my dad earlier, and I told him straight up. I said, if there's one team that's gonna ruin my scenario, the Yankees and Dodgers World Series, I think it could be the Mariners. I really do. They remind me a lot of the 2022 Astros, and I follow the Mariners closely, especially right now because of the position the Astros have put themselves in. But this team reminds me a lot of the 2020 Houston Astros, the 2022 Houston Astros. Um, just one of the most dominant pitching staffs in the history of the game. That 2022 Astros team, one of the most dominant bullpens of all time in the regular season and in the postseason. And a really solid starting rotation. And the 2022 Astros didn't need to score very many runs to win baseball games. And they because the pitching would pitch so well that they score 3 or 4 runs and the game is over because you just know that you could hand the ball off to any guy in there and they're going to shut it down. And that's what really the Mariners do remind me of. I mean, they're not blowing teams out. They're not they're not doing anything particularly well on offense, but they're getting some timely hits. They're putting at bats together. They're keeping it close late in games, and then they're finding a way to get those 1 or 2 extra hits that um you know they've played in a lot of close games, and they've had uh, their fair share of walk-offs so far this season and late inning wins. So their pitching staff is keeping them in games, and their offense is doing just enough. And I think that perfectly embodies the 2022 Astros. And I think that, like you said, if they go out and get a bat, that they could really be a contender for sure. Which sucks, obviously, for me. But as a fan of baseball, their games are so fun to watch with the energy that those fans bring in Seattle. They may be some stupid people online, but they do know how to cheer for their teams up there in Seattle. And I mean, that's all you can really ask for is a good atmosphere at a baseball game. So
I mean, it's unreal looking at their one-run games this year. The Mariners are 17-7. Good for a
it's like
708
almost
percentage.
that that's almost the exact opposite of what the Astros are. So it's
Yeah.
just it's really a tale of two seasons, honestly. I mean, just it I don't even want to get back into it, but it's been tough. It's been a struggle. One run games. The Astros are 5-14. So there you go. It's literally almost the exact opposite. Um, the Astros have been in positions to flip their record. I mean, they've given themselves the chances. They're just not getting those timely hits like the Mariners are. Which is why some people still believe that the season is salvageable because you have a ball or two fall um, when they don't, and maybe the outlook on the season is a lot different. But it's not happening for this team. Quite honestly, I do think that it's a crapshoot. I think that with all the injuries that keep piling up, we don't know how severe the Verlander injury is. I know that he did throw today. Um, But you've got Tucker still out. Everybody was saying that he was going to be back by Friday, and he still hasn't done any baseball activity.
And
He
they
might
said
need a little bit of a stint.
yeah, they were saying, I guess yesterday, that he's going to need some rehab games.
Yeah, he's probably going to need some rehab games, and just the inconsistency with the lineup, and just compile all of these things. The bad bullpen, the back half of the bullpen. Um, you know, Ryan Presley again came in today and did not he got out of it without giving up a run, but he wasn't able to get a clean inning. He gave up the one hit, or the first hit of the game, when he took the ball in the eighth. Josh Hader gave up a run. He's been giving up a lot of hard contact lately. Someone was saying online, is like, Jesus Christ, is every time Josh Hader comes in, is someone going to have to make a leaping grab at the wall? Because I've seen that on a handful of occasions so far this year where he's been saved by good defensive plays at the wall. Obviously he wasn't saved during that walk-off against the Angels, but like, good Lord, can we get some consistency from this team? That's all it takes. It's just the smidgest amount of consistency from everybody at one time. And I truly do believe that this team could find themselves in a race. But that it just hasn't happened so far this year. It hasn't happened. They need something needs to go right for them to where they just figure it out. But I mean, it's been frustrating. It's been frustrating to watch, and they're not a good team, and I can admit that as a fan of the team.
Yeah, I mean, Joe,
It's just
do you
that
think
simple.
Dana Brown has been saying that they are going to be buyers at the deadline? He's been very hard nosed on that. Do you think they're actually going to be buyers? Because right now, I think they're 7 games under 500.
They are 6 games under 500. They are 9 games back of the division, and they are 7.5 games back of a wild card spot, I believe. Just 7 games back. And it's interesting. So Jim Bowden, a writer for The Athletic, came out with an article this week highlighting every team's needs. And with Dana Brown's comments on the fact that the Astros will be buyers at the deadline. He didn't say they might be. He didn't say, we'll see. It has literally been straight up. We will be buyers at the deadline. So it has been an attitude change, from earlier on in the season. He wrote that the Astros will be targeting starting pitching, which he said that the Astros, Dana Brown said that the Astros were going to look to acquire 2 starting pitchers at the deadline. He said that without even any pressure. So that just tells you where his mentality is at. They're going to try to look for starting pitching, a first baseman, and a reliever. And the starting pitchers that they have listed are Jesus Luzardo, Garrett Crochet, Luis Severino, Tyler Anderson, Jack Flaherty, Eric Fried, and Trevor Williams, who is currently on the IL. The first baseman that they're going to be looking to target are Pete Alonso, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and Paul Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt has been awful. Pete Alonso was a contract dump for the Mets. Well, actually, no. He's going to be a free agent at the end of this year, correct?
Correct.
It's an expiring.
Correct.
Okay, yeah. So it's not a salary dump. More of he's just going to be a free agent. So they want to get rid of him as a rental. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the Blue Jays aren't playing well. They're looking, I think, to do the same thing as the Mets would be to Pete Alonso, because I don't think he's signed a contract yet either. So, I think Paul Goldschmidt has been bad. Paul Goldschmidt would be a contract dump, and I'm not sure how many years he has left on his contract, but he is making some money, so if he's on an expiring deal, that would be an expiring deal and a salary dump at the same time. And then some relief pitchers are Kyle Finnegan, Michael Kopech, Lucas Urkeg, and then Tanner Scott. So not Taylor Ursag. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that. That's a weird ass spelling. And then Tanner Scott. Sorry, what'd you say?
Ursag is really good. He's got great stuff.
Okay. Well, anyhow, and then Tanner Scott, not Taylor Scott, are the round out the relief pitchers that the Astros. Jim Bowden say that the Astros should target. And that's a pretty long list of guys. I don't know if they have the assets to go out and get literally any one of them, because I think that the Astros might have 1 or 2 guys in the minor leagues that they do like. One of them being someone who threw or was part of a combined no-hitter this weekend for this not the Space Cowboys, the Corpus Christi Hooks. And I believe his name is Jake Bloss, who was the Astros' number 10 prospect. he's got a 98-mile-per-hour fastball. He throws strikes, and he's got good power stuff, and he's got good movement on his secondary pitches. Um, and Dana Brown came out and said that they're not afraid to promote guys fast, and I think that that would be someone who, if God forbid another injury happened, might get the call up sometime soon, depending on how serious Verlander's injury could be. But that might be someone that, teams are looking for at the deadline because, the archetype that he is something that a lot of teams value in a prospect. Um, so I don't know if they're willing to give up on him or give him away for a rental when, the season could very well be lost at this point. I don't think it would make sense. I think it would make more sense to trade a guy like Alex Bregman, who we have a little bit of news about. So
Yeah.
trade a guy like Bregman, get rid of a piece like Chaz for somebody, but more specifically Alex Bregman because Kirby is about to mention why.
Okay, Joe. So the other day I was out at a restaurant and I was talking to some people and we overheard them talking about baseball. So I'm like, hey, me and my buddy Joe, we have a podcast. And so I was trying to promote the pod a little bit. And so we started talking about the Astros. And one of them is basically friends of friends of Alex Bregman's wife. And she cuts her hair. And apparently his wife stated that they want to get out of Dodge. They want to be out of Houston. So if that is true, if they really do not want to come back to Houston, if they are done living in Houston, I'm trading Alex Bregman. Especially if you are a few games under 500, if the playoff odds are maybe not in your favor, maybe they're less than 50%. If I know for sure, if I'm Dana Brown, I go to Bregman or his agent and I say, look, do you want to sign an extension here? And if the answer is no, especially if it's a hard no, that guy's gone. Trade him to a contender and get some kind of value back because he will be valuable to another team specifically. He can play third base well. He can DH. He can get on base at a good clip. He can hit doubles. He has some value. Even though a lot of times it doesn't look like it. But I would actually trade him, especially if they're not in a position to possibly make the postseason, and you know that he doesn't want to come back. I'm sure there are a lot of teams that would like to have him playing third base instead of their current. There's a lot of teams in the National League right now, just looking at the standings, who are in the race, because the National League right now sucks. I mean, I think there's only like 4 or 5 teams total in the National League that are even above 500. So you got the Padres, the Nationals, the Diamondbacks, the Giants, the Reds, the Pirates, the Cubs, and the Mets, who are all a game and a half out of the third wild card spot. Alex Bregman could go play third for pretty much any of those teams, except maybe a couple that haven't established third baseman. And like I said, I don't know if that rumor is true or not, but I found it very interesting that he and his wife do not want to come back to Houston. And if they don't, fine, trade him. Get some kind of value for him. Whether it's a starter, a reliever, somebody with some contractual control, or maybe a highly sought after prospect. Maybe this is kind of my thought, Joe. Maybe they replace him with a starter, and that's one less thing they have to look for next year or during the off season. Or maybe they look for an outfielder. I don't know. It would be really interesting to see what he could get at the trade deadline for sure, especially depending on how he's playing or maybe how he plays over the last 2 months.
Yeah, maybe they look for his replacement. Maybe they look for a minor league player that handles the hot corner very well. And has a good bat. I mean, who knows? I mean, if that rumor is true, and Alex Bregman continues to play well, he's raised his average to 240, and he's now got a 103 WRC plus. I mean, he's going to be a hot commodity at the deadline. And if he doesn't want to be here, then we don't want him here. Quite honestly, like if we're going to continue to play crappy baseball, and as a team, we need those reinforcements in the minors, or we need some control for some pitching. Then get out, go play for a contender for half a season, and then you figure out what you want to do with your life in the off season. I mean, I hate to be as blunt as it is, but I mean, this city has given him everything. And if he doesn't want to be here, then bye. The team's not playing well. You're part of the reason why the team hasn't been playing well. You know, you reap what you sow, and so get out.
I agree.
Give us something more valuable. I mean, that's really how I can put it. I think the Astros have done a bad job of keeping their star players over the years. I know that looking back at it, contracts like George Springer's contract haven't really panned out the way that the Blue Jays wanted it. Carlos Correa has continued his injury problems as a Twin, but when he does play, he has played decent for them. But that's some guy. That's Carlos Correa. Honestly, is the guy that I look at the most, and I wish that the Astros kept, just because of his leadership, and that he wanted to be here. He wasn't afraid to be outspoken when other guys in the Astros clubhouse were taking a pounding after the sign stealing scandal. That's a guy that rode for his teammates. And Alex Bregman, he kind of just curled up into his shell, and he hasn't been the same player since. He hasn't had that same energy, and I think everybody can tell. And if he doesn't want to be here, then give us something valuable at least. I mean, I know that if we don't trade him and we just give him, or we just get a qualifying offer from him and he doesn't sign with us, we do get a draft pick, which could be pretty good if we continue to be bad this year.
Honestly,
But
that's not
actually getting a solidified prospect who has actually played instead of taking a flyer on someone who hasn't played in the minors, I think is the more surefire bet. I would take that probably 7 out of 10 times. So, it's frustrating to hear that as someone who's been a fan of this team, from day one, dating back to before 2017, obviously. But, he's gone through his struggles here. He started off his career, I believe it was like 1 for 32 in 2016. We built a culture around him because we believed in him and we didn't give up on him. And, to see that, he doesn't want to be here is a little disheartening. I'm not going to lie. And I get it. These athletes, they're drafted to these teams and cities that they have no connection to most of the time. And they want to go be, where they're familiar. I believe that that's probably what Kyle Tucker wants to do. He wants to be in Florida. Because he's another player that I've heard does not want to be here as well. But if sometimes money talks, and I don't think the Astros have done a good job of giving their star players money, but at the same time, I do think that they have been fair to Bregman. It just sucks that he doesn't want to be here anymore. Is really what I'm getting at.
Agreed. Joe, is there anything else on the dock tonight that we need to talk about? We talked about Bregman not wanting to be in Houston. We have talked about our teams very much in depth. Oh, I have one. Shout out to Orbit for making into the mascot Hall of Fame. I love that for Orbit. Fantastic mascot. Other than that, Joe, what else is there? I think we pretty much.
Yeah, there's nothing really else from me. I basically got all of my rants from today, and that I've been holding back. Not really. But yeah, I mean that pretty much wraps it up for the Astros. Hopefully they can go out this week and beat a really bad White Sox team, and then be competitive against a really good Baltimore Orioles team. I shouldn't even be saying competitive because honestly, a lot of these games that they've been losing have been competitive.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to go beat the brakes off the Orioles. I don't want close games. I want them to pound them. Probably not going to happen. It'll probably be like a heartbreaking 3-2 loss where they blow the lead, and the 8th inning, Ryan Presley's probably going to go up like 2 doubles back to back, and that's gonna be the game. But you know, like I'm starting a rant again. I'm done. Have a happy Father's Day.
I
Have
have
a good week.
I have one more thing that I'll close on, and then I'm gonna give one last update about the pod itself. Um, so today, June was the 16th. This was actually the 10-year anniversary since we lost Tony Gwynn. Joe knows this. I am a contact hitter just like Tony Gwynn. I don't do much more than that. We were even kind of built the same. I love Tony Gwynn. I love what he did for the game. I love watching him play. I love his hitting philosophies. He's a Hall of Famer, 15-time All-Star, 7-time Silver Slugger, 8-time batting champ, 3,141 hits. He hit 394 in 1994, and he had 200 hits 5 different seasons. So just shout out to Tony Gwynn. Really wish he was still alive and still with us, because his knowledge, his wisdom, and his love for the game was just like none other. So shout out to Tony Gwynn. And then the last thing, Joe, that I have for the night is obviously we've been on YouTube for a long time now since the pod started. But as of this week, we are actually on Apple Podcasts as well. So if you could go to the Throwing Partners Pod, our logo is on there, so it's easy to find. If you could leave us a 5-star review, that would really help the show. We would really appreciate that. And then also, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That also helps our show. And thanks everybody for listening. Sorry that we ranted a little bit, but sometimes it's just needed because our teams right now are just a little bit frustrating. So thanks again, everybody. Have a wonderful Father's Day, and we'll see you next week.